This is Leafs Morning Take with Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill.
Now we've got a fight started here right off the bat with Rosehill.
30 minutes of live, nonstop Leafs talk starts now.
And just like that, it's another Friday. It's hard to believe it's been a week since the NHL trade deadline, but time flies when you're having fun as we push forward to the Stanley Cup playoffs in about 18 games from now, presented by PointsBet Canada. It's the Friday edition of Leafs Morning Take. Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill. What's up, Rosie?
Not much, dude. Just wondering if the Maple Leafs all simultaneously retired or what's going on. Feels like we haven't watched hockey in a week.
And crazy enough, it's only like a 3-day break. They were last in action on Tuesday when they beat the New Jersey Devils, spectacular fashion to finish off that 5-game road trip. And they've had a couple days to lick their wounds, getting set for the Edmonton Oilers tomorrow. But you had a chance to do some pre-scouting last night, from what I understand. You watched the Vegas-Tampa game. I love your eyes lit up there. You got scared. You thought you missed something there. But the Vegas-Tampa game, what'd you make of that one?
Yeah, chippy as hell, man. There was, I would call it a full-out brawl was going on. Lots of chippiness, lots of after-the-whistle action. Had a total playoff feel going on. They did not like each other. It's kind of weird. You wouldn't think they'd have that much history to get heated, but they pissed each other off, and it was great to see. And Tampa lost, which is fantastic, but had that playoff vibe and made me start thinking, you know, the Leafs wouldn't really fit into this type of game all that well. Leafs prior, and then all of a sudden you start to look at the bodies they've brought in, and they do have some guys that can get their noses in there and go toe-to-toe with some of those guys that are trying to be rats and disturbers and draw penalties and all the rest of it. We've thickened up a little bit. I'm excited to see this group in the playoffs.
Because even the thing with Tampa and their big boys, like, they're not afraid to get in the thick of things, like Braden Point, Steven Stamkos. Nikita Kucherov has a dark side to him, man. When he snaps, and he loses his shit. Like, it's just a different type of demeanor from these guys. I think on top of that, no Victor Hedman for the second straight game for Tampa. Obviously, he's a difference maker in a 7-game series. Vasilevsky hasn't been great lately. So that's another sidebar story to look for as we move closer and closer to that first-round matchup with Tampa. But I do think pound for pound, the Leafs actually match up better with Tampa than, say, like a Boston team. I don't know. It's had that feel for a couple of years now. I don't mind the matchup, quite frankly.
Yeah, me neither. I think that now we got some of those guys, like, even if they want to get into the muck of it there in the gutters a little bit with Patty Maroon and Corey Perry, we got some guys that can settle them down or make sure they're not taking control of a game. And, you know, if Vasilevsky doesn't absolutely stand on his head, which he's obviously capable of doing, they're a pretty beatable team with our group, I think. And you just got to bring your best stuff and show up in the playoffs, which is what everybody's waiting to see.
Man, I told you that from day one. Can you believe today is our 100th show? Not together, because obviously you've done some, 3 hits with roses and all that, but 100 shows. And I told you that on day one when we started this thing, dude. This 82-game stretch does not matter. It all matters about game 1 to game 7 of the first round. And I can't believe we're 18 games away from finally figuring out, like, one way or another, what is this team? Are they fake? Are they real? Are there changes coming? I love it.
It's crazy. At the beginning of the season, we were talking, and the consensus was just nothing matters. This season's a wash. I was like, holy shit, we got a long ways to go before playoffs. But click, you go through the fall, Christmas comes and goes, you get a good evaluation of where everyone is, get through those dog days a little bit, wait for, All-Star break, trade deadline, and boom, you're looking down the barrel at playoffs. And even more, even the fact that we've known who our playoff opponent's going to be since pretty much Christmas hasn't dulled down the action at all. So, man, I am excited to be part of this during the playoffs. It's creeping down on us right now. Coming up, we're getting halfway through March here. It's coming, man. And I like to watch the playoff hockey, but to be as invested in the Leafs and whatnot, and it's different being invested as a guy that follows a team or reports on a team or the media side. I think it's totally different, and I'm seeing things as a fan and as a guy that that's totally different than a player, and it's like a totally new look for me, and I'm totally excited. I should say totally more, but totally.
No, I love it. It's like very Mean Girls-esque of you, but also the fact that, like, it's just like it's so dramatic with every win and every loss, and you've been in that room where it's not really that case. Guys are level-headed, they're chill, they understand sort of what's that task here, and I think they stay grounded. Whereas even in, a game 45 loss to the Arizona Coyotes, the fan base is just losing their collective shit. It's amazing, like behind the scenes, what it's like. And it's also amazing what it's like in front of our eyes here.
Yeah, and like an example, I was watching the Oilers game yesterday. They're playing Boston. They get up by 1 goal, and like every minute that ticks down past that like 8-minute mark, the excitement just rises and the crowd just rises and it rises, and you just wait for this anticipation of this excitement to come, and it's just more and more intense as you go. And that's just fun as a fan, and that's just expected because Boston's going to pour it on. But on the bench, the Oilers, every shift and every shot that goes against, and every time the crowd goes in it, we're sitting there going, get the puck out of our zone and box out to the outside and get it deep. And what are we doing? And it's like, it's expected as a crowd, but when you're in the thick of it, it's like, why would we let them tilt the ice towards us? Tilt it in there, and it's just a different look, and it's fun, and it's exciting to kind of be a fan and not be invested in a different way, man.
And lucky for you, you've got both sides of the spectrum, having played in the league and now as a media member/fan. Remember to subscribe, tap that like button, leave us a review wherever you're checking us out. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com for the very latest on all things Toronto Maple Leafs. Also, as we've teased all week, starting Monday, we're taking the live show to our very own YouTube page at the Leafs Nation 401, at the Leafs Nation 401. So if you're subscribed here in the Nation Network, continue to do so, but just know that our live show, this show you're watching right now, I know it's taped as well, you're watching it right now, will be live on at Leafs Nation, at the Leafs Nation 401, coming up on Monday. So make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Thoughts, comments, questions, or concerns, drop us a line in the chat down below here on YouTube, and we'll get to them later on in the show. But for now, let's get over the boards. All right, so for the second time, I guess in 10 days, 11 days, the Leafs and Oilers will go toe-to-toe on Hockey Night in Canada. The last game, I believe, was on a Wednesday a couple weeks back in Edmonton, a 5-2 win for the Oilers. Would that be brought up in the room first and foremost in the pre-scout? Would they bring back that game and say, guys, you stunk up the joint that night?
Yeah, I mean, I think they would definitely have watched video about what happened, and they would have broken that down yesterday. Maybe this morning you'd stay on some positive stuff and show what we need to do on the power play, and they'd have special teams video and meetings and whatnot, and they'd definitely touch on why you lost and watch the video of it to give examples so guys can actually see. And then game day, it's kind of getting more on the positive track, like let's get jacked up, let's start getting ready. And you can't dwell on the past anymore on game day, but they've definitely looked at it, addressed it, had meetings about it, and gone over it. So they should be hyper aware of what happened and why they lost. And sometimes that stuff is important, and sometimes you just got to do it depending on how you lost and what the circumstances were. But they have a fresh look at these guys, and they know quite a bit about them, playing them just 10 so days ago, like you said. But Oilers are kind of coming in on a high, that's for sure.
Oh, dude, they're feeling it. They go into Boston last night. The Bruins had won 10 in a row, excuse me. The Bruins haven't lost more than 1 in a row this season. It's crazy. But the big story for me is that Connor McDavid is really quiet last night, which is scary for Leafs fans because he's rolling into town on Saturday night. He had 1 shot, 0 points, and a -1. It really, really is crazy. I don't think Edmonton gets enough respect for how much depth they have up front. They got Evander Kane back in the mix. Zach Hyman, former Leafs, had a great year. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins has been fantastic. Some of their bottom 6 guys have really elevated. Evan Bouchard scores last night. We'll get to the goaltending conversation as well, but they're feeling pretty damn good coming into town because they're in the rare, group of teams, including the Maple Leafs, who have actually beat Boston this year in regulation.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and that's bang on. They did it with their depth last night. They had, D-man score and different guys step up, and it wasn't just Connor McDavid going end-to-end twice to tie the game. It was the opposite, really. So good on them for showing their depth. I mean, it's what they've lacked. They got the 2 best players in the league in a lot of ways, doing almost everything for them. And I think they've proven that you can't go the distance with that. And if they start showing a lot of depth and they can fill holes when Connor isn't having 3-point nights, look out. This team could be very solid. And you touched on it there. They get some goaltending. Sky's the limit for them, and they showed it last night by holding strong and showing a huge third period and beating Boston, man. Shocked them in their own barn. So they'll be coming in hot, and it kind of sucks that Connor McDavid will be doing some refocusing here coming into Toronto, and that's not great for the Leafs fans, but they'll have to prove they can shut him down and play their game too.
It really is scary, not to mention Darnell Nurse, the rare hero in that game. He struggled offensively once again this year, but really starting to cook are the Edmonton Oilers, and they score big-time 2 points on the road. Watch out for Edmonton when it comes to the Pacific Division. I was going to ask you, too, like that dreaded first game back after a long road trip, would you be more concerned if you were the Leafs if like that game was 2 games after? You've had a couple days to rest and chill out after a trip on the West Coast.
No, I like it. They've been home. They've gotten comfortable. They've gotten back into their comfort zone in their own building with their own facilities. Everybody's there. You're at home. You see the family. You're not living out of a suitcase. You don't have a shitty bed or whatever that you don't like in the hotel. Everything's normal, and they're back to their routine basically. So I expect them to be ready and focused and chomping at the bit to get going again here. And I don't think it's a bad deal at all. They're back home where they've had success, and we'll see who starts this game in net. I'm not sure if it's been announced yet, has it? It has.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So it's Matt Murray. I think you're alluding to Toronto, but I'm alluding to Edmonton. Yep. That is my question. I've been waiting all year. I love the revenge angle. How do you not put Jack Campbell in there? I know he can't stop a beach ball, but if you want to get the guy going, put him against his former team. How often has it happened in this league where a guy struggles, plays his former team, and he takes off? And I know there was a moment, I believe, in January where Campbell really found his game. He has been dreadful this year. So I ask you this question. Was passing on Jack Campbell one of the best moves Kyle Dubas has made as Leafs GM, period, Rosie?
No, not one of the best.
Answer is yes. Yes.
Answer is yes. It was a good move. And I was surprised when Edmonton picked him up. They have problems with goaltending, and they go to a guy who is just proven to not be able to get it done, really, at the end of the day. Just not good enough to go the distance, I don't believe, at this point in time. And I think that they must have put all their eggs in the basket of, well, it's tough for a goalie to be in the Toronto market, and he can be even better than he was in Toronto, and he's just not right now. So, yeah, they rolled the dice and missed, but I wasn't crying when they passed on Jack Campbell. I loved the goaltending moves they made before they even played a game, and definitely a smart move on their part. I don't think Dubas, after like not having success for those years and not getting it done, why you'd extend him to something big. It's kind of like, oh God, like we need a little bit something different, and he went out and got it.
If it weren't for Stuart Skinner, I think Ken Holland would be out of a job right now. The guy was an all-star this year in Skinner. He saved the season. I mean, McDavid could do what he wants, Draisaitl the same. They can score the way they want, but Stuart Skinner has solidified that crease, which to me, that's the biggest story of this Edmonton season, if you can believe it, considering what number 97 has put together. But just look at those numbers for Campbell, man. He got 5 times 5, $25 million, 882, 357. Yeah, the wins are there because his team's ridiculous offensively. But what a misfire, man. Like, I don't even know what to do with that contract because it's just year 1 of 5. Like, they got to roll with this guy for the next 4 years or the next couple of years until they can buy him out. It's scary, man.
Well, there's no one saying he can't rebound from this season, but like over 3.5 goals against is not ideal. And I hope to hell he plays tomorrow night, because it's going to be a good angle for us. It's going to be good to have him in there. I think he'll probably be nervous, and I don't think he's got all the confidence in the world. I think if you're going to try to throw him in there and give him some confidence, you throw him in against Columbus or something and see if you can get him a win and get going. This is a big game. The team's flying high. He's going to be gripping it a little bit, saying, oh shit, I don't want to let the team down. I got all these outside distractions. All the media is going to be up his ass all day long. I think they'd be smart if they didn't start him, but it would be cool if they did. Fingers crossed.
Dude, I won't lie. It's a dream for me. I think it would be amazing in terms of the narrative. Do I think it's going to happen? Unlikely. Stuart Skinner's been outstanding, man. You beat the Boston Bruins. I think you deserve that next start. But it's just so unfortunate. You play Edmonton twice, and we're not going to see Jack Campbell this season, which we're going to see the video tribute. Unfortunately, I think he's going to be wearing the ball cap on the bench. But I just want to highlight the numbers and bring up Jack Campbell. And this wasn't meant to just rip on Jack Campbell, but I think Kyle Dubas actually deserves a lot of credit for passing on that. When Campbell, and good on him, the market spoke for itself. It said 5 times 5 makes a lot of sense. That's a good deal. That's what Campbell should command. He got it from a desperate team in the Edmonton Oilers. and good on the Maple Leafs to pass. But it's pretty crazy. I was thinking last night too, like in our wildest dreams, could we have ever foreseen a scenario like this where Jack Campbell is getting lit up left and right? And then for all the scrutiny the Maple Leafs took about adding Samsonov and adding Matt Murray, when healthy, both those guys have been fantastic. Like it really is night and day when you compare it to what Jack Campbell has put forth this season.
Yeah, I think last year was more of a what is Campbell going to do? Because he could be good, but he was very streaky, and you'd go on losing streaks because he didn't have his game. And it was a big groaner where it's like, fuck, we were ready to put the pieces together. And then Campbell kind of lays an egg, and we just haven't had that this year. We haven't had periods of time where we don't have a goalie that can save a puck. We don't have a goalie that gives us a chance to win. It seems like these two goalies we've got are switch hitting pretty good, and they both had, an injury here or there, which is expected over 82 games, and Murray more so, which again was probably expected given his history, but he just hasn't had that groaning, oh my God, if Buddy plays like he did last week, he's not going to give us even a chance to win because there's going to be 4 scored on us, and like, how are you going to outscore that in the NHL? So we haven't had that this year. It's a total upgrade. And I remember, from watching the amount that I was, it was kind of hairy seeing what kind of Jack Campbell you were going to get. He was a little bit streaky and inconsistent. And what was the consensus when he left town? Was there people crying, hey, what are you doing letting go of our goalie? Or what was the vibe in Toronto?
Yeah, not really. I think many like me felt the price tag was just too expensive. And we all knew that there were other teams, namely the Edmonton Oilers out there, who were prepared to pretty much pay anything to get a goaltender. Taking nothing away from Campbell. He actually had a pretty good year last year. His second half was terrible. His first half was outstanding. You sort of forget he was an all-star, right? Because of what happened. Things went off the ropes, got banged up a bit in the second half. But good on him to get that money. It's just a tough market to play in, as we know, especially when you have Connor McDavid. And that's the third conversation I wanted to get to on today's show. I know a lot of Oilers fans in the chat piping up. We got the Leafs-Oilers war back at it. Saturday night, Hockey Night in Canada. Can't wait for that one, man. But I try to watch as many Edmonton Oilers games as possible for one reason and one reason only. It's not Jack Campbell to watch him on the bench. It's Connor McDavid, man. Like, this guy is out of this world. And we saw this last year with Austin Matthews, where it was like every game, 1-2 goals. Dude, honestly, documenting the Leafs last year was ridiculous. Matthews was on a different planet, but I would say like 9 planets away is where Connor McDavid is. This guy's a legit shot at 70 goals this season. Again, pointless against Boston on Thursday. Doesn't really matter. He's got 54 and 66 outings. He needs 16 and 16 to crack 70. Just think about that number in this era.
Yeah, you go out there, you get a hat trick, you get an empty netter here, and all of a sudden that number is looking pretty close, which is insanity. But I can just imagine the hard-ons right now of all the guys in the chat, the Oilers Nation. Now we're talking about Mick Jesus, but for good reason, man. He's disgusting. Like, people are talking about, I'm sorry, but even comparing him to Austin Matthews. Matthews had a phenomenal season last year, no doubt about it, but it's not a comparison. There's no comparison to anybody in the league to Connor McDavid. He has it all, and he is so dynamic. When he is on, you just laugh at the screen because it's like, what league? Like, is there a better league this guy's supposed to be playing in? Yeah. Oh, he goes through everybody with speed and skill and vision and agility and awareness and finish and dish. Like, he does it all, and he does it hard, and he's just on a different planet, man. And those numbers, like, you're at 1.25 already, and no one else is even looking at 100 besides your line mate, who, how many points would he have if he wasn't playing with you? He probably wouldn't be in the number 2 spot. So you're just disgusting, man. And what a blessing to have. And they deserve it. I mean, I remember playing and thinking when they got like 4 number 1s in a row, which, like, it's never happened before. It's unheard of. It's like, oh my God, they're going to be winning Stanley Cups in the next 3 years for years to come. They're going to be a modern day dynasty. Like, who gets those kind of picks? But there just wasn't generational talent in the draft pool during that time. Like Nail Yakupov, like, come on, he's not a generational talent, but they get the Connor McDavid, and he is a franchise in himself. So Oilers Nation has suffered a lot of bad stuff here the last decade or so, and some heartbreak and some embarrassment. And it's good that they're starting to gel, and this guy is what they can hang their hat on, because he is disgusting.
You know what? I have a calendar set up here at my condo in downtown Toronto. It actually counts the number of days until the McDavid contract is over and he signs with the Maple Leafs. So looking forward to that in a couple years from now. You know it's coming, Rosie. You know it's coming. The heel turn right there. Oilers fans are actually in this chat thought we're just going to praise this team for 30 minutes. Fuck off. Not a shot in hell. But jokes aside, I love this matchup. I think anytime McDavid and Matthews get together, get to see Zach Hyman, like, people could say what they want. He priced himself out of Toronto. I think to an extent that's happened with Michael Bunting. Like, you have to be realistic. Again, if you have those pillar pieces in play and in place, you're paying them that money. The salary cap is a factor. It just didn't make sense. But I'm happy for Zach Hyman. I covered him for a couple years as the Leafs radio host, and like, the guy was just the epitome of class, man. Like, he was tremendous. He's done great things for the Edmonton Oilers. The guy's written children's books. Like, he's done everything. So looking forward to this matchup for a variety of reasons, not to mention Evander Kane's one of my favorite players in the league to watch. He's back in the mix, but I expect it to be a chippy affair because I think that game matters to both teams, man.
I hope so. I hope it's a very intense game. And sometimes coming down the stretch to the playoffs, teams can kind of tail off and start to reserve. And sometimes teams make a big push and you start to get into that playoff atmosphere. So be interesting to see how this one goes for sure. I think the start of the game will dictate it for sure. But since you went down that road, Connor McDavid, like, what a hard guy to get a read on. I mean, personality-wise, his interviews and his charisma just sucks. Like, there's nothing good about it. He doesn't say anything good. He's his flair is all on the ice, and I can't tell if he's happy in Edmonton, if he's miserable. I can't tell if he's gonna sign a franchise tag and stay there forever and try to win, or if he's absolutely waiting to get the hell out of town. And to think that he might want to do, the move to Toronto, I don't know where that came from. If there's any reason to think that other than Leafs fans just waiting, hopefully. But what an unbelievable thing that would be. And there's quite a bit of talk about it for really there being no reason to think that could come to fruition, no?
The guy's got a heated driveway in Edmonton. Have you seen his house? I think GQ did a shoot with him, man. The house is phenomenal. He's living the life out in Edmonton. But, like, I guess never say never. Having said that, it's a lot different than, say, the NBA, where there's just so much movement. I actually respect the fact that, and he hasn't said this publicly, like, to me, from the outside, it seems like McDavid, the legacy is important. Very similar to what it was back in the day, we'll say, where guys didn't leave. They mattered. They thought about the legacy. They thought about their name and their numbers going to the rafters and just being with one team. That's why I thought it was tough. Yeah, it was tough for, like, Patrick Kane. Like, I do get this perception out there, and it sucks to say, covering the Leafs, that McDavid wouldn't mind being an Oiler for life, to be up there with the greats of all time, with Gretzky and company.
We'll see. I mean, the guy finishes out this contract, and he if he goes to another team and plays there for a decade, that will be his legacy just fine. It depends what kind of guy he is and how happy he is there. I saw him. I did see him in that YouTube thing where they went through his house and his girlfriend is taking everyone through, and it was the girlfriend show. He was just getting toted around, giving terrible answers, did not want to be there at all. Like, the comment sections were like, Connor, blink twice if you need to be saved and shit like that. It was so funny, but he's too hard of a guy to get a beat on to know if he's happy in Edmonton or not. I think winning solves a lot of problems, but he just might not want to live in Edmonton for the rest of his playing days. We will see, but just the thought of that is definitely getting ahead of ourselves.
These guys are trained from a young age. I will say, and I've told you this off the record, I'll say it on the record, I've interviewed a lot of players in my time being a broadcaster for the last 12 years. I've interviewed McDavid, I think, a couple times, one of which was in person. I can't say I'm chomping at the bit to do it again. I did not get much. He's very stoic. He's not going to tell you anything. I think it was coming off a World Championship appearance a couple years ago, and he was mentioning how he did a couple of other European cities, and I'm like, "What'd you do in Amsterdam? Huh? And, like, just no response. He just, like, nothing. He would give me nothing. So if I'm somebody,
crack a smile, like, no, he won't crack a smile. He won't do anything.
Yeah, it was at BioSteel camp in Toronto, and I get it. You're doing a million different interviews and hits, but like he sits down, you could tell he didn't want to be there already. He's on his phone. I was like, oh, I don't know. I was trying to shoot the shit before we came back from commercials. He wanted no part of the interview, but I'm taking nothing. Like I've got nothing but good things to say about Connor McDavid. I've met him a couple times. Met him. I was at an event at All Star Weekend. He's salt of the earth, and I get it. That was actually one of the questions I asked. Like, what is it like every day waking up? And I don't want to say it's weighing on you, but knowing that you matter so much to a sport that everybody wants to talk to you. Can you think about how draining that would be, Rosie? That's why when I see him like in interviews or whatever, and like, for example, my example where he really didn't want to be there, I sort of give him some credit for even showing up because I think it's got to be just terrible to deal with that daily.
Yeah, and you look at some of those like hyper superstars that know they're going to be a superstar from a young age. They get the coaching and the training and the media
Yeah.
awareness and whatnot, and they're usually that kind of personality anyway to get to that level where you're just hyper focused on one thing and you don't really develop a whole lot of outside shit like personalities and sense of humors, and you're all over the place. You're pretty hyper focused on your craft, it seems like, and I think he knows that. Exactly like that. He goes to a BioSteel camp. He does 15 interviews with the same bloody questions, and he just knows, like, just put your head down, answer the question generically so
Yeah.
that there's no outside distraction. Don't ruffle any feathers. Don't have people looking at you for a rebuttal or for a extra comment on this thing you said that struck a nerve. Like, fuck all that stuff. He just give the
Yeah.
generic answer so that there's no outside distractions. Like, it's draining enough as it is being him, let alone causing controversy or perking up ears or having other people want to talk to you. Like, he just gives the generic and moves on with his work.
Well, that's why very seldom in the NHL specifically do guys even give much in terms of answers because they know the backlash. Like everybody's looking for a quote, and I can safely say that as a media member, I'm always looking for that quote in an interview, and that's why McDavid doesn't give anything, and I got no problem with it. Having said that, I would love more personality in the league. I think you look at the NBA specifically; their top players have so much personality on a daily basis. They're asking out, and then conversely, you look at the Crosbys, the McDavids. It's a much different story, but nonetheless, looking forward to that game tomorrow night and looking forward to Connor McDavid signing and being a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs in a couple of years from now. Rosie, let's get to the PointsBet wrap up here. Good friends at PointsBet putting this together for us. Here we go. Let's look at the chat right now.
Here comes
the
the
chat's
Oilers
hot and heavy.
fans.
Yeah, Oilers Nation's been hot and heavy in the chat, and they're two shows we put together when we're playing or when the Leafs are playing the Edmonton Oilers. And I know a big portion of Oilers Nation's coming down for the game tomorrow. Unfortunately, their flight was backed up today due to inclement weather. Man, winter can get lost. I know I'm talking about Toronto. It's a lot different out west, much cooler out there, much colder. But it just randomly snows. The next day will be like 10 degrees. It's a blizzard out there right now. So hoping everybody in Oilers Nation gets here safe and witnesses an Oilers loss tomorrow against Toronto Maple Leafs. Matthew writes in, Kucherov is sneaky dirty. Dacky all over the chat. Oilers fan here, looking forward to the game today or tomorrow. And good luck to you. Kerwin talks about Wayne Simmons always being a Toronto Maple Leafs potential. He could get called up, man. Throw some mitts around against Tampa Bay Lightning. You never know. Zach, who I believe Zach Langer, a good buddy over at Oilers Nation. I hope Leafs fans are ready to see what a real superstar looks like tomorrow night. So troll in the chat. Great to see. I love this type of fire, man. This is what the game was meant for. And that's why, the one season we did have it, that North Division, was a lot of fun to watch and cover.
Yeah, big time. That was fun. You don't see that very often. Like you say, an example is we only play him twice, and we don't maybe potentially even get to see Jack Campbell, which is a wicked storyline that people would love to see. But you only play him twice. You don't get that shot. You play him 4 times. There's a better chance, obviously. But Oilers fans are always good at chirping. They're always the loudest. And I think they've had to build up a thick skin. They've gotten nothing but heat and had to defend themselves for years. And they're ready. They're ready to fire back these days. And they're always a vocal group, man. I see nothing but Flames Oilers talk with my friends on the golf course, in the group chats. It's always hot and heavy. So I like it. I like it a lot.
Producer Alex, by the way, put up a great poll in the chat. Would you start Campbell versus the Leafs? A resounding 83% said no. So that tells you all you need to know about Oilers Nation, how they feel about Jack Campbell right now. Just reading on as well. GSIPP00. Marner plus Matthews equals McDavid. That's fair. I mean, it just shows you how great Connor McDavid is, and looking forward to see what he does tomorrow. Dacky writes in, underrated Leon Draisaitl and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins too. Yeah, there's a lot of guns on both sides. Are you expecting the over in that game, by the way?
Yeah, I am. Goaltending on both sides is kind of totally up in the air, and you got Connor McDavid maybe a little pissed off from being held off the score sheet of a big win. I think Austin Matthews is feeling it a little bit, and he could start to catch fire here like we've been hoping, and there's nothing but firepower with guys at the top of the standings, points and goals-wise, so why wouldn't you take the over? I wonder what it's set at. I would think 6.5, maybe. Interesting
It might
to
be
see,
7.
but I'll check
Yeah.
points bet.
It might close at 7. I think it closed at 7 last time. Soham writes in, by the way, big fanboys. Goes on to say, Rosie, tell us about my boy Colton Orr, that fight in Philadelphia. Do you remember what fight he's talking about? There's probably a bunch of them, no?
When I fought him, I was with Philly playing against them. It was
That's
my
what he's probably talking
first
about.
game. My first game for the Flyers was back in Toronto against the old team. So that was probably one of the highlights of my career. I scored the game-winning goal. It just like tipped off the shaft of my stick, and then I fought Colton Orr and held on for the win. So it was a huge intro for me to be in Philly. But to go after Orzie and him throwing those right hands that are hot and heavy, and we went after it. And yeah, it's just one of those things that happen. We had a chat afterwards. After he was pretty heated, actually.
Of course he did.
Yeah, didn't think that would end up happening, but away she went, and that was my intro to the Philadelphia Flyers. So good way to do it, I guess.
We tried to get Colton Orr on the podcast. He politely declined. I don't think he wanted to talk to you, Rosie. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, he's he can be kind of introverted in certain ways, and he's gotten out of the game, and he's pretty invested in the stuff he does. So yeah, we'll work on him. Don't worry, we'll work on him.
I had Orzie on the Unmuzzled with Nick Alberga podcast I did a couple years ago, and he was fantastic. Just really, really good insight and stuff. So we love Colton Orr here on the podcast. Just wrapping as well. Pringle McDingle's looking for a Luke Schenn update. Have we had a baby yet? Anything to report on that front? Is he still in Vancouver?
Yeah, I think he's in Toronto now. I will double check and have an update on Monday.
Dude,
I should have an update here ready to go. I don't want to bug him.
You're the Luke Schenn guy. Okay,
I know. Apparently, I'm the insider. I feel like Drager right now. Everyone clamoring for info. It feels powerful.
Oh, Vancouver fans were up in arms, man. You were breaking shit left and right on the program, but we don't need an update on Monday. I'll let you know on Saturday if Luke Schenn's on the ice for his re-home debut. Then there's your answer. But anyways, we'll keep it at that.
He already told me he'll be there. He already told me he'll be there.
Okay. So that is confirmed. You heard it here first on Leafs Morning Take. Luke Schenn will be back in the Maple Leafs lineup without a third kid, right?
To my knowledge, yes. To my knowledge, he is. Jess has still got the baby bump going. So I don't know what they're going to do. They're going to have a PJ on standby, I think, and he'll be flying west hot and heavy if next week is my guess.
I love this, that you're the Luke Schenn insider. And by the way, for everybody in the chat, Luke has agreed to come on this show. He was on this show in, October, November? He was really good, but Rosie broached him on a question. We got to play that back to him when he comes on. Like, Rosie was really pressing him, saying, hey, what would it mean to you to be a Leaf again? And next thing you know, 4 months later, he's a member of the Leafs again. So we're going to get him on again, right?
Yeah, definitely. He was going to and then didn't feel right about it with the team not being there. But he'll be on here, I don't know, probably next week maybe, and depending on the schedule. Okay. But that'll be funny to play that because he gave such a piece of shit generic, no answer. Information, which you got to expect. He's under contract for the Vancouver Canucks. I mean, that's just a no-no talking about what it would mean to play for a different fucking team. But that was hilarious. We had to roll our eyes and say, yada, yada, yada. Okay, next question. That was terrible. And he was a little bit chuckling at that. But I think when he comes on, we can get his real opinion on that. That's for sure. Yeah.
I love people in the chat here. Somebody's asking for a Kaprizov update. I guess we're an NHL show now. Since I do cover fantasy hockey, he's out for 3 to 4 weeks. So it anticipates same sort of timeline as Ryan O'Reilly, 3 to 4 weeks, probably comes back for the last couple games of the season for the Minnesota Wild. So we'll leave it at that. Again, everybody coming down from Oilers Nation, be safe. The weather's kind of shitty as I look outside right now. I'm not sure it's supposed to be maintaining all day long. So get into town. Have a couple drinks and enjoy the game tomorrow night. Rosie, enjoy the game tomorrow. We'll talk on Monday. Okay, buddy?
I will. Have a good weekend, everybody. We'll see you on Monday with the Oilers win in our pocket.
I'm going to go NHL.com right now. I'm going to purchase a Connor McDavid number 97 Toronto Maple Leaf jersey. That's Jay Rosehill. I'm Nick Alberga. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Take care.